You heard it right, guys. The Supreme Court's hearing and result is now going against Donald Trump. This is a big one because it is going to have some impact on the markets. Let's get right into it. I do want to thank our sponsor, and of course, that is Tangem. This is where you can start to maybe get into self custody. If you haven't tried self custody just yet, this is one of the best things you can do in crypto. Very easy to do. All you have to do is use our link down below. It's going to give you a little bit of a discount. These work like little credit cards, and they work with your phone and an app that is, I believe, one of the best products out there when it comes to self custody. And the nicest thing about Tangem is this thing is super simple to set up. You heard it, 3 minutes or less to get into a hardware wallet. You can start storing all of your tokens right there on Tangem. If you hit that little Get Tangem button, you'll be able to get in and get a 3 card set to get rolling over on there. The one I would go with, Chinese New Year, the year of the horse. Speaking of that, we got to talk about the year of the horse because things might get pretty dicey here in terms of how the market is going to be brewing. So I thought, let's bring in one of our expert traders. That is Mr. Evan Aldo coming in from who knows where today. Evan, how are you, man?
Doing well, doing well. Always great to be on, Paul. Enjoying Peru.
I
So
love
yeah,
it. Peru. I love it, man. What? Oh, food. Food in Peru. Is it
food in
still
Peru is
is
incredible.
it's in yeah, it's fantastic. So Lima,
Yeah.
Lima, one of the best restaurant cities in the world. Listen, if you guys are not following Evan Aldo, jump over to his YouTube channel right now and hit subscribe right there. You guys can too be part of the Evan Aldo group out there. Very easy to jump in. So visit Evan Aldo over on YouTube. He's doing crypto trading market cipher tutorials. If you don't know what market cipher is, it's a great trading indice that helps you make better trades, whether you're long, short, how you want to play the markets, getting into it. So cool stuff. Hey, Evan, we got to talk about a few things right now. One of the biggest issues, of course, one of the most anticipated rulings in decades, U.S. Supreme Court now has ruled President Trump's emergency tariffs are illegal. And that means 8 months of chaos completely reversing out. This, of course, is the amount of money that the U.S. could possibly face in potential tariff refunds. I have no idea how this is going to unwind, Evan, but this is going to get crazy because the refund process is going to be a mess, as you can kind of see. As acknowledged at an oral argument, the refund process is likely to be a mess. How does this, first of all, when you look at this news, you would think that Bitcoin and the markets might have actually moved, but Bitcoin trading at 67.2 right now as we record this. What do you think?
So I think that this is not a surprise. Betting odds were always that the Supreme Court would not rule in favor of Trump. So I think a lot of this has kind of already been factored in to a certain extent. If you look at the betting odds, I think for the actual refunds, if this will actually happen, I don't think the majority of those refunds will not be happening. I mean, think about how inefficient the government is to
Yeah,
begin with. It's not gonna, the majority of that money ain't going back. So. I think
what a
some of the
mess.
tariffs are going to remain. Trump already hinted that he's got some more tricks up his sleeve. So you're still going to see tariffs, I think a little bit less though. So, I don't think this
Mhm.
has any net positive or negative for the market really, in my view.
Okay, so let's look at the Bitcoin chart because I want to know how it compares to other charts that are out there. If you look at Bitcoin where it is right now, and I know you just did a video on your channel, a little bit more bullish on Bitcoin going up. Some people still pointing that Bitcoin might slip under 60K. What is your position right now?
I think in all likelihood, the bear market rallies generally last a little bit longer than many would suspect. And if you look at my Bitcoin screen right here, I think we're in this range right here, and we could be in this big range, kind of this volume range between like 66.5 all the way up to
Mhm.
71K into the end of this month, maybe a week, 2 more weeks. And I think in March, what happens a lot in bear market rallies is you get a fake out. You break upward, you hit this point, potentially 73K. And that's a typical bear market rally number, about 23%. Something
Right.
with a two in front of it usually is a bear market rally. I don't think you're going to go all the way up to 84, those areas, or 80K. Probably a fake out right here, get everybody excited at 73. Then you break back downward and retest these lows and potentially March or April. And this is always where I've been thinking March, April, May, you're going to see your bear market low, something like this, probably around 48K. I think things would have to get pretty crazy for us to substantially lose like 48K and go below there. But I think if I had to really put a guess on it, 48K, 50K is probably going to be your bear market low. For the very short term, it's a scalper's market. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just this area. If you go scalp long, you got a good shot of winning, and then if you go scalp short at these highs, you got a good shot of winning. It's just back and forth. It's a range-bound scalper's market and probably will be for at least another week. If we look at the daily, though, this is pretty good in the daily, though. You got a bull div right here. So this is what I think will eventually bring you up, one of the catalysts to eventually bring you up to 73, 74K right here. I think you have to substantially like hold strength at 74K and before we can talk about 84K or those areas. I don't think it's going to happen though. I think you'll see something along the lines of this and then
Yeah.
come back down. So yeah.
All right, so you're looking at a short-term run on Bitcoin,
hmm
slowly bleeding into possibly the market low overall. And I think that would be probably timing is going to be the factor here, of course, hitting that bottom. You don't think clarity has any potential of causing a bottom to occur at that point?
It does, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know when it'll pass exactly, but I think if that does pass, that will help. That could mark a bottom. I think that, it's sell the news when things are good and it passes,
Yep,
but it's buy the rumor when things are bad and it passes. So
interesting.
regulation is normally a bottom signal when things are bad, when things are down. So absolutely, that could mark a bottom whenever that may happen.
Hey, you had Peter Schiff hitting it right here. Supreme Court got it right. They also did Trump a huge favor. If you believe this, because his tariffs basically were harming, they believe, to the U.S. economy. If they pull these back and he's not able to execute these, this is essentially or potentially could correct the U.S. economy, or they have to do some other things like actually print money and increase the deficit even more. So gold and the debasement trade could be back on right now. What do you think about his statement there? Do you agree or disagree?
So I think that I mean, it depends how you look at it. That's a tough situation. There's smart people on both sides that will tell you tariffs are good. People will tell you tariffs are bad. I think tariffs in moderation are pretty good. And I think even the Biden administration showed that they agree with that because they kept in the tariffs on China. So I
Hmm.
think if you keep that in and you have it in moderation, it probably would be good. I would say in the long term, taking away some tariffs probably will help the US economy. And I think there's still going to be QE, but obviously nothing nearly what we saw in 2020, 2021. So
Interesting.
yeah, I think Peter is partially right, but definitely not completely.
Are you investing any in whether it's tokenized gold or in physical?
I've held gold for a bit, kind of since October. I
Hmm.
think gold is a pretty good long-term investment, at least against the S&P 500. I think gold is going to peak out against Bitcoin by the summer or something. So that
Okay.
could be a good conversion,
Yeah.
just like normal bear market years.
Rotate in at that
Yes,
point, which is, I
absolutely.
think that's what Peter is trying to defend against right now is the mass rotation eventually that would take place into risk assets off of metals, which
hmm
is and has been the case many times before. Hey, I want to play a clip for you. This is Bloomberg talking about what this might mean for, and I'm talking about the tariff ruling, what it might mean for stocks. Take a look.
This has to be baked in and then considered what will actually happen. And as you all mentioned, it will take a while for this to take effect. Essentially, this is near-term drama for short-term players, some excitement on the trading floor for some people, and for others, if anything, look for any babies that get thrown out with the bathwater. Most certainly, much too soon to make assumptions on that, but I think that's why initially you saw consumer discretionary popped. Right away, they thought of all those items that were imported. The tariffs had been already paid for, money coming back. What recalibration would that have to do related to earnings and revenue growth? And moving forward, it most certainly is important. But in terms of the market, intermediate to long-term players, this is more of, if anything, it's an opportunity to either stay put, continue the diversification process away from overconcentration.
All right, so there you go. Stay put or continue diversification. Diversification and overconcentration, those are two polar opposites that have been talked about quite a bit. And I think I'm playing it that way right now. All right, so Evan, I want to jump over to a clip here by Tom Lee. This is basically him talking about the chaos level that we're dealing with right now across markets. Does this have an impact on stocks and crypto? Let's see what he has to say, and then I want to get your opinion. Take a look.
hmm
But there is one scenario where gold will do well, but crypto will do poorly, okay? And that's if the entire currency system itself is questioned, meaning if there is a point where we say, we're so concerned about chaos that I don't care about the dollar. I don't even want to own anything that's dollar denominated, and especially if it's a digital dollar, right? Because Bitcoin is digital money. In that scenario, gold would do well, but stocks and crypto would go down. So if we look back at the history of gold, I think it's about 15% of the time, gold's had a negative rolling 3-year return. So in some ways, both are stores of value, but they're just going to be working at different times.
So both are stores of value, talking about digital assets, gold obviously layering into that. To your point that we've kind of alluded to, do you think this is the time right now that people would say gold is the route to take?
No, well, I think history, I mean, you could speculate on the fundamentals like that, like he's talking about, but I think when you look at the charts and you look at normal patterns for gold, I think unless the US goes into a recession this year or next year, gold is probably going to consolidate for 2 or 3 years. A typical gold bear market lasts 2 or 3 years, a bit longer than a stock market bear market. So I would say gold is not the play for 2 or 3 more years. End of decade, that could be a good buy, and I think you'll see gold show some strength in the 2030s, but I think you need 2 or 3 years to cool off after everything that's happened. So I think S&P 500 would be a bit more attractive than gold right now. Even Bitcoin, if you're willing to wait a few years, a bit more
Yeah.
attractive than gold. But I think after the next Bitcoin bull run, towards the end of this decade, 2028, 2029, that's where you're going to see gold hit a lot of bottoms against probably S&P 500, Bitcoin, riskier things, and then gold will see, maybe another 2, 3, 4, 5 year run in the 2030s, maybe into the mid 2030s, I would guess.
Well, the point he's getting at, I think, is the issue of, are we in short-term rotation opportunity here on gold? Your point is that we might be before
Yes.
we see rotation into some of the risk assets later this year. So I do think that when you look at that, along with what's happening right now with Ethereum, this is a very intriguing time because it kind of brings up kind of know where the potential around Bitcoin is going, but let's take a look at ETH. ETH is set to close its 6th consecutive month in red. In the last 14 months, ETH has also closed 11 in red. So very disappointing in terms of overall. I think a lot of people on our channel, big ETH holders, long-term ETH holders like myself, but at the same time, many people also took profits from the recent run up in ETH. Where
Yeah.
would you be at right now? Could ETH hit $1,000? What's your position?
I don't really think 1,000, anything's possible, but when you look at the ETH chart, the first thing that I want to show you that's actually really interesting is this is the 2-week 200 SMA. That's kind of where you bottomed in March or April of 2025. You bounced off of it right here. So I think based on that, a lot of the damage already has been done. Now, the other thing too, you got to realize, ETH hit a bottom last bear market in June. Bitcoin didn't bottom until November. It could theoretically bottom before Bitcoin too. So that's not impossible to be a bottom
Interesting.
1700. Now, I kind of think that's maybe being a little bit too optimistic. So if I would fathom that if Bitcoin went down to 4850K, this is going to bottom somewhere between like 13 to 1500. So it would probably look something like this over the next few months, and then you'd see a bottom
Okay.
around these areas right here. That's what I'd be looking at right here. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You look at the strategy that has been out there around these DATs. SharpLink is doubling down on its ETH as an institutional ownership is surging. You look at the fact that Tom Lee is charging toward a 5% target. And the potential now is that if someone like SharpLink can't get corrected here, maybe a BMNR could do an acquisition and snipe some ETH
Yep.
under MNAV. Man, that could pop BMNR. Where are you at on BMNR as a
So
stock?
I'm going to show you, I should charge money for this. This is a top secret strategy. We look at the BMNR chart right here, came down a lot. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like what MicroStrategy was in 2022, about a 90% correction, and then a nice bounce off of this level right here. So what you can do, and what I think is really important here, you would set some type of stop loss below this low and then convert to probably Bitcoin. This would invalidate this. You would convert to either Bitcoin or Ethereum because those would be
Okay.
better options if this makes a lower
Where
low.
would that stop loss be, though? Where
Right
would you?
below this point, right below 1729. I'd probably
All
just
right.
go 16.99, make it even, something
Yeah,
like that.
for audio listeners right now, BMNR is trading at $20 right now as we
hmm
record this. So around 17. So another 1790, is that what it looks like? No, 1730.
1690. I would go 15% down. Let's make it a
Okay,
nice even
15. All right.
15% down. So then if
So
it goes
there's
down, yeah.
that's a potential play there if this does fall into a scenario where BMNR sucks up some of these companies, because this is going to increase their ETH holdings dramatically. MNAV could alter. That's where it could actually outperform ETH, especially if we see ETH moving down. Now, if you look at the ETH chart, back to your point earlier, where would be your position if BMNR, let's just kind of play a scenario. If BMNR actually gets to acquire somebody, a couple other DATs, they soak up more ETH. ETH right now is post clarity, which looks like it's going to go through. Where would you be? BMNR, ETH, a little of both hedging?
So I would be more, I would do the trade where I would be a lot of BMNR unless it makes that lower low. I would keep with
Okay.
that lower low because I think if that news plays out the way that we're hoping it does, like you
Yep.
mentioned, I don't
Yep.
see a scenario where BMNR makes a lower low. It wouldn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would shoot up a lot, I think.
Which gets back to the point of, I mean, if you get another scenario like where BMNR took off originally when it was first brought out, in comparison to ETH, it actually did outperform. Tom Lee said that a couple times, that the performance has been greater if you look long term of where
Yeah.
ETH has in general. Hey, let's jump over to AAVE, because AAVE is interesting. Is this a buy opportunity? There's a little bit of a crisis brewing over there right now. And if you look further into the article, there's a couple of points I want to hit on. BDG Labs, this is the decision to leave, is reportedly driven by organizational the governance changes that have been out there. Key part of the process on AAVE's prep to take more central role in the AAVE 4 development, simply meaning that 100% of the protocol revenue now is going to be directed toward the DAO treasury. So that's the big news, coming out of AAVE. But it does create a little bit of static, for what's happening within AAVE in general. And it's very depressed as a token right now. Would you buy this one as it is right now?
It's a little concerning. Let's take a look at the chart. I mean, that's obviously, it's a tough question, Paul. I mean, it's come down. I mean, if it could hold 116, that would be good. If it could hold 116, these
Yeah.
areas, that would be good. What you can do, I mean, it's right around there right now. We want it to jump here. I mean, you can do something with a stop loss, 103, some of these areas. But
Right.
honestly, I would give it a few more months and just see what it does here
Okay.
and see if it can kind of hold these lows. I think it's kind of a wait
All right.
scenario. I would be more attracted to ETH right now than
All
this.
right. I like it. More attracted to ETH versus AAVE. What about Jupe if you were to play an alternative to this, to AAVE?
Jupe
Jupiter.
is interesting. Let's look at, and this is an interesting chart. This is Jupe versus Aave. And what you could do here, not everybody's looking at this chart, but you could set a notification if you do make a lower low,
Yeah.
kind of against Aave right here. So you could convert back to Aave. But I think as long as you hold this area on the Aave chart, it's bled a lot against Aave, but it could, very low risk, high reward. It could jump, and then you'd get out of it if it makes a lower low against
Okay.
Aave or convert
All
to
right.
Aave. So it's a good gamble, I think, potentially.
Yeah, that would be a good gamble, and one that where you could kind of hedge versus
Mhm.
what's going on with the AAVE scenario right now. Because I think long term AAVE is going to win just because of its
Mhm.
ability to be able to really generate some utility across a lot of these platforms. Hey, I want to talk about Solana for a second. Right now, the Ali charts account here had it 74.11 and 50.18 are the next key levels for Solana. Do you agree with those numbers? Basically $74 and $50. Where do you stand?
Solana, I wouldn't get overly scared about it. This is a huge area right here, and you came down, and let's be real, you came down already almost close to 80%,
Yep.
77%.
Yep.
This could hold up well against Bitcoin. So it doesn't have to go down to that 47 range. It
Yep.
absolutely can go down to that range. I mean, that would be your full, bear market 83%, kind of typical for a lot of altcoins. But there's always some shining night while everything else goes down lower. And I mean,
Yep.
keep in mind, ETH bottomed out before Bitcoin last time. We're in a state where QT has ended. This could have hit a bottom. This absolutely could continue sideways while Bitcoin goes lower. So just
Bingo.
keep that in mind. So I think it's a pretty good gamble. You know, I think it's a pretty good, I don't even want to say gamble. I think it's a pretty good long-term potential play here. Can it go down to that 50? Absolutely. The other thing I would look at here for those who like to compare things to Bitcoin, hitting a big place against Bitcoin right here. However, if it loses this low, similar technique to like BMNR and a lot of other things, if it loses this low, I would convert back to Bitcoin because I would think that you're probably going to go lower. So
Make
it's
the
a
trade.
good, yeah, it's a good trade right there. You just got to be careful.
I like it. Good stuff today, man, Evan. Obviously, we put out a big video yesterday, and it was in reference to Coinbase killing off optimism. And this is a big deal because Coinbase and the base chain spent a lot of time working in optimism as part of the base chain. This, of course, affected all L2s. You look at, of course, the new launch with Robinhood that has been out there. I'm not going to say it, but the likelihood is they're probably going to affect the next L2 out there, and that would be Arbitrum. So there are some problems here, and could be. The question I have, though, is when you take a look at that strategy from the major exchanges like Coinbase and Robinhood, the likelihood is almost every, major institution probably going to follow suit here, meaning building their own chain. Ethereum wins, but someone else that might win is, guess who? Avalanche. What do you think about Avalanche on the chart right now? Because this thing is way down in terms of market.
It's scary, man. I mean, it would kind of like, I would say it would break a lot of TA rules if this was to really, run here because you made a lower low than here.
Yeah.
You made a lower low than June of 21. Based on a longer, like you need really, really good news to bring this back from oblivion at this point. Like this doesn't look too good at the moment. I think it's a high risk, but you could try with a tight stop, below this low. You could try to write it up, very low risk, high reward. The other thing I like to always look at, like on all of these, against Bitcoin. So, what you could try against Bitcoin, do a notification right there and then convert back to Bitcoin if it makes a lower low.
Rotate.
But when you zoom out here, like well, it's hitting somewhat of a big point. I don't know, It could come back, but I feel like, these charts normally don't. Like when you look at charts like this, the odds are usually less than 50% that they do come back.
Interesting there right now. Woo. Big statement as this could come back or not is the question. Probably the most high risk right now that we have seen, at least in today's show in terms of tokens. Again, this is not investment advice, guys. This is Evan and I kind of, hashing it out on what we are doing internally, how we're kind of looking at the market in general. Macro has a huge impact on where this is going in the future. We're going to be doing more shows like this. As always, we try to do our trading shows every Friday. Make sure and to like and subscribe on the channel right now. We'll hit you next week, hopefully with news on Clarity. Evan, thanks for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Always an honor to talk to you, Paul. Thanks so much.
If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.